So the time right now in Florence, South Carolina, USA is 8:40 on Saturday 8th of September 2018. And Florence is in the news. Oh, not this Florence, a different Florence. Hurricane Florence is in the news. Hurricane Florence, expected to re-strengthen into a major hurricane before threatening the US. And there's heaps and heaps of news stories on this now. And it includes the North Carolina governor declares state of emergency as Tropical Storm Florence bears down on East Coast. And this relates to something I discovered today. I've known for a while that Florence is in South Carolina. It's a place in South Carolina. What I didn't know until today is that it is pretty close actually to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. Myrtle Beach is on the coast in South Carolina. And something else I've known for a while is that Florence is on the hurricane name list. Florence, interestingly, reminded me of, because the name Florence means bloom, blossom, like a flower. And so I started thinking about Florence as a symbol. And I got thinking about Florence and the Machine, the artist from England, the singer, Florence Welch, who I'm quite a big fan of and have been for a long time. Not that I knew too many of Florence's songs, but the ones I did know I really liked. Shake It Out. I've known that one for a long time. I've really liked that song for a long time. I liked the mashup of Shake It Out and The Scientist. I thought that was really good. Scientist by Coldplay, another British band. And then I knew Never Let Me Go. Great song. And I knew Spectrum when I heard it. Didn't know by name. Anyway, they're all from the same album, Ceremonials. I did not know the song No Light, No Light until fairly recently. And that was when I started looking at Florence's music with the thought in mind, I wondered, do any of her songs have anything to do with hurricanes? Because I heard hurricanes described on the Australian Sky News Weather Channel by the chief meteorologist, Tom Saunders, as self-perpetuating, self-sustaining machines. In theory, or it may not have been the chief meteorologist, but it was one of them. It might have been Rob Sharp, but one of them said, a hurricane or a tropical cyclone is a self-sustaining machine. And I thought Florence and the Machine kind of describes a hurricane in that case. So that's when I started thinking, hey, maybe it'll be maybe Florence will be one to watch this year. I just started thinking maybe. But I also had Ernesto in mind, because Ernesto is the hurricane in a novel called Red Rain by RL Stine, the children's horror writer, or scary story writer, wrote a novel called Red Rain, and it is set on a little island off Florence, off South Carolina, a state of the USA. So, Myrtle Beach, I imagined the island that the identical twins, Daniel and Samuel, in Red Rain, they live on an island, and they're described as blonde, blue-eyed, and angelic. So I imagine them living off Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, just off Myrtle Beach here. That's what I imagined. And then I discovered something weird today. There's a place in North Carolina called Seven Devils. And coming down from Seven Devils, it's only a little place, a couple of hundred people live there. Coming down, you get to Florence and Myrtle Beach. And I imagine the little island in Red Rain to be here somewhere. It didn't actually say exactly where it is, but it just said off South Carolina. And so I thought, this is strange. I didn't know these two places were so close together. Myrtle Beach was affected. It actually received like 6 inches of rain from Hurricane Ernesto. Ernesto was a hurricane like 6 years ago, and it caused a bit of flooding in Myrtle Beach. So Ernesto is also the name of the hurricane in Red Rain by RL Stine. So I was thinking Ernesto, then I was thinking Florence. Ernesto and Florence. Well, Ernesto's been as a tropical storm. Ernesto brought some rain and wind and whatnot to Britain. Now Florence is from Britain. She's from England. Florence Welch. And the name Welch means foreign. It means someone from Celtic or Welsh origin. And Florence, the name means bloom, blossom, like a flower. Which she did 2 days ago. She blossomed unexpectedly. Very unexpectedly. Totally contrary to computer model forecasts. And took everyone massively by surprise. So it's now 8:46 a.m. on Saturday, the 8th of September 2018 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is pretty close to Florence in South Carolina. 8:46 in the morning, 8th of September. And so I was looking through all this today, all these headlines coming up. Florence is becoming more of a threat to all different places, including North Virginia, and no one quite knows exactly where it's going to go at this stage because it's too far away. But the chances of it hitting are getting much higher, as you can see there from these track maps. It's looking pretty ominous, you would say. So I started looking at Florence and the Machine from that point of view. A hurricane is a machine. Potentially, in theory, an endless machine. It's a machine that it actually it increases the energy that it draws from the sea. It makes the most of that energy. And the way it does that was described by the meteorologist that I was listening to. So then I started looking at Florence, the artist, and thinking, I wonder, do any of her songs have anything to do with hurricanes? Like, could you relate them to hurricanes? And I was like, one of the first ones I noticed was actually a song called How. And it's a werewolf song. So it's a song about werewolves, but if you could only see the beast you've made of me, I held it in, but now it seems you set it running free, screaming in the dark, I howl when we're apart. So this could be describing a hurricane too. That was the first one I noticed that I thought could be describing a hurricane, which Florence is on the name list this year. So I was like, I wonder, could Florence be like a major hurricane? There's always a chance, isn't there? If the name's on the list, there's a possibility. Could happen. Could be that one. And Florence is number 6. Number 6 usually comes around the end of August, start of September, which is when you tend to get the worst hurricanes. So I thought, Ernesto, Florence, they're both in the right spot to be a bad one. Gordon, Helene, Isaac. Helene's going to be a hurricane, but it's not going to threaten anyone. It's been named as a tropical storm now, Helene. Isaac is possibly going to threaten the Caribbean. And there's another one that could be going to form next to Florence. It may not get a name. Florence may devour that one. Eat it up. Consume it and get bigger and more powerful is possibly what's going to happen with the other system. So that was how I thought, how that could relate to hurricane. What the water gave me, well, that would be fuel, heat, energy, exactly what a hurricane needs. And Ceremonials has the song that truly got me thinking about the novel, Red Rain by RL Stine. Not lover to lover, no light, no light. It's the one. It's the one that got me thinking along the lines of, I think there's something going on here. Because that book, Red Rain, has a hurricane named Ernesto comes and smashes the island, which is where? Just off North Carolina. South Carolina, I should say. And like I said, I imagined it to be somewhere just here. Somewhere just off Myrtle Beach. So Myrtle Beach, Florence, and Wilmington is in North Carolina, just to the north. There's another place called Myrtle Grove, Topsail. They're all in North Carolina. But, yeah, the place that I looked up today was Seven Devils. Why did I look it up? Because I just had this faint memory of a place with a name like that from previously looking at maps, probably when there's hurricanes happening, most likely. Yeah. I thought that's rather strange. Come up far enough and you've got this place, Seven Devils, in North Carolina. It's on the other side of the border, right? So, it's now 8:51 a.m. Saturday, 8th of September 2018. And state of emergency declared already in North Carolina. Hurricane Florence turns towards Bermuda, may become a threat to the US. What is David Epstein saying about Hurricane Florence? Florence could re-strengthen into hurricane this weekend. Well, it is too early to change plans. No, it's not. You could change plans right now. Get ready for insane, climate, ambulance-chasing headlines. Global warming causing unprecedented Hurricane Florence. I think we've got a Trump supporter here. Just a hunch. Florence could cause dangerous surf along US coast. Hurricane Florence weakens to Category 3. Hurricane Florence looks like a giant cotton bud, as seen from the International Space Station today. Truly does look like a giant cotton bud, if ever I saw one. Mid-Atlantic residents should prep for the worst, the experts say. Prep for the worst. And looking at some of the songs by Florence and the Machine, and the fact that Seven Devils is the song straight after No Light, No Light, yeah, I'm inclined to think that too. Leave My Body is the last album on the track, so I'd start running now. Great artists obviously reflect life. Life as it is. Not life as, well, life as it is, and life as you'd wish that it could be. But it often isn't. Life is often cruel and brutal and painful and horrible and, all those things. Often it is. We don't want it to be, but it is. Well, I find Florence and the Machine, Florence Welch, her songs reflect life both at its the painful reality of life, but also the hope of a better life, a better world is reflected in her songs. And that's why I started to think it would sort of make sense, if there was a big hurricane Florence. Because not only do great artists reflect life in their art, whether it's paintings or novels or poems, and what are poems? What are songs? They're the same thing, but when it's a song, you sing it. St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes. St. Jude, we were lost before she started, St. Jude, we lay in bed as she whipped around us. St. Jude, maybe I've always been more comfortable in chaos. And I was on the island and you were there too, but somehow through the storm, I couldn't get to you. St. Jude, somehow she knew. And she came to give her blessing while causing devastation. And I couldn't keep my mouth shut, I just had to mention grabbing your attention. So yeah, really powerful, amazing, moving lyrics. And I think the only people that would turn around and say, oh, you're to blame because it's your name and you wrote all these songs about hurricanes, so it must be your fault. Only a religious nut would think like that. And they, ironically, are the people who adamantly deny climate change is happening. If you could see the beast you've made of me, this could be the earth talking to any human being. I held it in, but now it seems you set it running free. Screaming in the dark, I howl when we're apart. Drag my teeth across your chest to chase your beating heart. So, planet Earth itself is meant to be a female, right? And climate change, I'm afraid to say, what's happening now is not natural. And it's not happening at a slow, gentle pace, at a pace that things can keep up with, at all. And hurricanes, I hate to say it, but hurricanes like this one, Florence, that's the least of our worries with climate change. The very least of our worries are hurricanes like Florence. So maybe it's time to shake it out. Shake out the denial. Howl, because hurricanes do howl. They howl ferociously. I think some people probably do need a kiss with a fist. It's got to that point. The dog days are not over. And yes, we do need a bit of cosmic love. Absolutely. We really do. And I'm learning, so I'm leaving. And even though I'm grieving, I'm trying to find the meaning. Let loss reveal it. Let loss reveal it. St. Jude. This is the one that really reminded me of Red Rain. No hope, I don't want shelter, no calm, nothing to keep me from the storm. And you can't hold me down, 'cause I belong to the hurricane. It's gonna blow this all away. Pain, trauma, loss, disappointment. It's life. Great artists reflect life, and sometimes life reflects great artists. Sometimes the mirror maze works both ways. Goes both ways. Because we do live in a world of reflection. 2011. Ceremonials. And it was only today I discovered that Seven Devils is actually the name of a place in North Carolina. North of the border, see? There's the border. Seven Devils. Come down to Florence, come down to Myrtle Beach. It's 8:59 AM now in Florence. Saturday, 8th of September, 2018. Myrtle Beach. Obviously it's the same time in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Same date. And what about Wilmington? Same. That's in North Carolina. It's quite a lot of places that are listed in North Carolina actually. And and no matter which of those places you live in, it's about to be 9 AM. There you go. So, it's 9 AM now in North Carolina. Another thing is, there's the song No Light, No Light by Florence the Machine. It has the time on the watch. This is at like 3:29. It's 6:15 on the watch that is on Florence's wrist. Now, this video clip has a rather dark theme, and it's set in Manhattan, in New York City, in a church. Well, part of it's in a church. This is in a church, this scene with the watch. And I discovered Kirk. The name Kirk means church. Kirk is Scottish for church, but it's actually from a Greek name, Kirk. Helene has been named today as a hurricane, but it's not going to affect any land by the looks of it. It's going to go out into the middle of the Atlantic, kind of out where Florence went, but Florence is doing the unexpected and the unusual, and is coming towards the US from a different... The other thing is, there's a song on the new album. The new album by Florence and the Machine is called... So Florence and the Machine, Flower Power. Yeah, Flower Power, alright. Okay, let's try that again. Florence, now let's try that again. Florence and the Machine. So I'm just going to type this in, so bear with me. And, oh geez, I'm okay sometimes. Oh my god. Florence and the Machine. I'm not used to typing with one hand. Florence and the Machine. Patricia is what I want. It's a good song. It's off the new album. High as Hope. High as Hope. Florence and the Machine. See? Release year 2018. High as Hope. And she's even holding some flowers in this album cover photo. Florence and the Machine. Well, Patricia, guess what name is Patricia can be shortened to? That would be Patty. Patty's on the list. And I've talked in my other videos about a boy from Minnesota who was murdered in 1989, Jake Wetterling, whose surname, Wetterling, means weather child. And the boy who told me that was a boy who grew up in Germany. And his name is William. And the name William is also on the list. So we've got William, we've got Patty, we've got Patricia. Patricia was also one of the strongest hurricane ever recorded in history, was Patricia. Let's look that up. Hurricane, I'll try not to be unco. Hurricane should just come up because I looked it up the other day. Come on, Patricia. That's it. Hurricane Patricia was the second most intense tropical cyclone on record worldwide ever. Hurricane Patricia, and this was just in October 2015. So not long ago. It didn't make landfall at its peak strength, thankfully, because its highest winds were 345 kilometers an hour, so it's probably a good thing it didn't. 13 people did die. It hit Mexico, but yeah, they're just a pressure of 872 millibars. That's when you know they're not mucking around. And that's another thing about Patricia, apart from the fact that it's a song on the new album by Florence and the Machine. Duration of the song, 3:37. And Jake, the boy Jake Wetterling, his last name Wetterling means weather child. The boy who told me that, his name is William. So I see William as being the mirror boy, if you want, the reflection, the heart reflection of Jake. I saw that in him. I saw Jake in him. And I sensed that Jake and William are like spiritual brothers. So Jake's mum is Patricia, goes by Patty Wetterling. And there was a hurricane hit America the very year that Jake was murdered, which was 1989. There was a hurricane hit the USA. And this is Weather Underground, where my favourite blogger does his blogs, and that is Jeff Masters and Bob Henson. The two of them do really good detailed blogs especially on hurricanes, typhoons, tropical storms, tropical cyclones, whatever you want to call them. And as this is saying, there's another storm. Olivia is threatening Hawaii. Looks like Olivia's going to go across Hawaii. And this one, Mankut, is going to hit Guam in a couple of days as a very powerful typhoon, and then go on towards probably towards Taiwan or China. So Hawaii and Guam, I don't think they've ever both been threatened at the same time by storms as they are now. Helene was named this afternoon. It was this one that became Helene from Invest 93L. This one most likely will be Isaac, but it depends what order they get named in. And this article describes Florence and the increasing danger that she poses to the US East Coast. So it might come up. There we go. And this is by Jeff Masters. Now I was saying that Jake died in 1989. Well, if we go down to the bottom of the page, here it's showing Florence with the system that could give us a little demonstration of the Fujiwara effect between Florence and 94L. We could see the Fujiwara effect in action, because this wasn't expected to form either, and shows how favourable the conditions are in the direction that Florence is heading. The fact that this is even formed, it's quite an alarming sign, actually. Alarming development. But down the bottom of the page, Jeff Masters flew with the hurricane hunters from 1986 to 1990. Jeff Masters flew through Hurricane Hugo just a couple of weeks before Jake Wetterling died in Minnesota. So, yeah, Hugo. Jake would have known and heard about Hugo just in the days, and I think Hugo may have hit the same part of the world around North Carolina from memory. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's about right. So Florence is definitely becoming an increasing threat to the US. And while flicking down through all these headlines, I think I read it already, there was a reference to Minnesota. I don't know if I read that or not. I might have. It just said somewhere, a pleasant Minnesota weekend. This is Minnesota Public Radio News. East Coast could be bracing for Hurricane Florence next week. So Jake's the boy from the USA, and there's a boy from Australia, Nathan Breeze, who is no longer here with us. And they're the two boys who I connect to each other. Spiritual brothers. They have a spiritual brother in William. And yeah, back to this article, and it's basically saying that scenario 1 is looking the most likely, and that is for a hurricane landfall on the East Coast. Beyond that, something to watch with 94L. I saw a presentation a few years ago that showed that Hurricane Katrina of 2005 increased markedly in size after it absorbed a small area of disturbed weather over the southeast Gulf of Mexico and stole its spin. Imagine if a hurricane swallowed Donald Trump, how much spin it would absorb then. If Florence manages to absorb 94L, the increased spin the combined system will have may act to expand Florence's size considerably, leading to a larger storm surge and an increased area of wind and rainfall impacts. True. Yeah. Fujiwara effect is when two cyclones or two systems. Now this 94L may not develop into much of a system, but if it does develop enough to, start to spin, then we could have something interesting happening between the two of them. And then things really will get interesting, because that will affect the direction too. And that is mentioned during this article. The intensity forecast, category 3 or 4 hurricane by Tuesday, September 11, that is. Big waves are coming, of course. Bermuda may actually escape. If it goes south of Bermuda, that's good for Bermuda. Could be bad for the US though. Well, it makes a landfall that much more likely, doesn't it? On the mainland. And here we go. Will it impact Florence's track? Well, it could, if it develops. It doesn't have to get a name. It just needs to develop enough to, get some spin happening. And no, I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump. I'm not going to pretend that I have much time for people like him. I've got no reason to. Australia, we've got people like that too. We've got a guy named Peter Dutton here who tried to bulldoze his way into the Prime Minister to become the Prime Minister of Australia just a couple of weeks ago. But he miscalculated badly. And thankfully, he's not our Prime Minister. And hopefully he never will be. Because he's also a climate change denier. And strangely enough, he's also rather racist. Which seems to all too often go hand in hand. Just seems to be a general attitude of selfishness and not caring about other people. Very much at all. And I find they are the types of people who don't understand synchronicity or reflections or things like what I've been talking about in this video, which is people who are really good at describing life in their artwork, and then sometimes things happen that reflect what is in the art. Things in life can reflect what's in the art, and the art reflects what's in life, because life can be painful. Life is often painful, and you know what? When you deny pain, when you deny reality, it doesn't make the pain any less. In fact, it tends to make it worse. So, you have brave people who are willing to take on the reality of the world. I actually would consider Florence Welch a true Christian, because I can see she does care, and I know I don't need to ask, is Florence Welch a climate change denier, because I know she's not a climate change denier. She's not that type of person. I know that. I don't need to be told that. And she is a Christian. She's a real Christian, which is something I would not say about climate change deniers. They are not real Christians. They're what I would call fake Christians, because they just don't care. It tends to go hand in hand with being racist to varying degrees, being homophobic to varying degrees. In Australia, the right-wing fake Christian conservatives seem to be switching now from homophobia to let's just give transgender people a hard time. It's like they love to pick on the people that they see as being weak. But they often miscalculate and get it wrong. And life tends to work with the people that are honest. And they are the people whose work, whose art, name can sometimes be reflected in real world events. And no, they're not always nice events, because life is not always nice. Life is not always peaches and cream. It's not always cotton buds and candy. Even though Florence was looking remarkably like a cotton bud today. I have to say, I have never looked at a storm before that looks more like a cotton bud than what Florence did today. And it's kind of weird because this year was expected to be fairly quiet overall. And maybe it will be, but like they say, it only takes one. It only takes one to cause problems. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Florence. And Florence is a machine. True. Florence is the machine. I'm going to see Florence and the Machine when they come to Australia. And the Machine is also a hurricane. A hurricane is a machine. It's a machine that feeds off warm ocean water. That's the fuel source of a hurricane. And climate change, human-caused climate change, is providing a lot more fuel. A huge degree more fuel for hurricanes. But we haven't seen the bad side of that yet. Florence is not an example of what climate change potentially can do. It's just a hint of what climate change is going to do to us if we don't curb greenhouse gas emissions. And that's a fact. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. So, yeah. When you politicize science, you have to expect that people who are then talking about science are going to address the political situation as well. And I am talking about science, and I'm also talking about synchronicity, because I don't subscribe to organized religion. Why? Because I don't like hypocrisy, and I don't see unbridled selfishness as being a true Christian. I see that as being a fake Christian. And I've seen plenty of it in Australia. It was on full display a couple of weeks ago when Peter Dutton tried to bulldoze his way into the Prime Ministership. And it speaks for itself. Anyone who's a true Christian can see a fake Christian from a mile away. And that's my thoughts on life. Reflected in a hurricane and reflected in a great musician, Florence and the Machine.